minute till this comes up, but we'll be ready to start. They're probably, they can hear you now.
Yeah.
We will get started.
He was just writing me and Dom and letting us know that somebody didn't show up at work, so he had to go and deal with it. So he was going to be running a little bit late, which is normal for Alan. You know, he has to go through it all the time. Yep.
So we are up and running.
All right.
Good morning, everyone. Evening to others. Best thing to say is good day. I remember I would go to Ireland for negotiations. We're starting up. I would go to Ireland for negotiations, and every morning I'd get up and get ready to go to the plant. Everybody you seen, they would say, top of the morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there was always a return to it that you were supposed to say back. And the rest of the day to you. So, top of the morning and the rest of the day to you. We've been talking on a little bit on Friday. We had a great time Friday evening, just discussing about the age that we moved into, how that we've come to a oneness, and we're working with dimensional realms now, and so I'm going to kind of stay on that today. And there are times back through the scriptures, which we'll look at, that that you can see the connection coming together. We'll talk some on the connection and the effects of mass movement, and you see it coming together. And this is an age of it. This is not a little period where some kind of little pattern shows up of how it's going to be. This is it. Mm-hmm. We've come to the age where that heaven and earth and the fullness of all dimensions working together have become one. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, we're going to talk some on the theophany. We're going to talk about, and there's the hummingbirds.
There's your hummingbird.
It's getting warm enough.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I love hummingbirds. So we're at a point to where that it's opening up, and we're all becoming one and working together, and kind of what the theophany is doing. You know, and Brother Branham didn't quite know how to say it. Don't get upset. I know he was a prophet. I know all that. But he hadn't come far enough along to really understand how to say what theophanies are doing. And, you know, he said, I know they're not out there floating around on a cloud. And I used to think that they would go by and say hi to one another, but they didn't have a body, so they couldn't shake hands and hug and all those things. And he said, then I came further along than that, and of course he crossed to the other side, and he seen them in bodies and hugging and shaking hands and talking, and he realized that the theophany has more. But that's kind of as far as he went. He said they had green hills and green grass and trees and beautiful place. And in the future home, he got to a point, he said, now look, he said, we're not just going to sit around over there, and they're not sitting around over there. He said they're in. We're going to work. We're going to do things. He said, we're going to plant, we're going to harvest, he didn't know how to say what we were going to do, but he knew that we weren't just, and they weren't just, on a pension over there. Like the Lord said, okay, you're retired now, go to this little holy land over here and walk through the holy land holding hands and skipping along and singing songs to one another. And that, which is kind of what we thought was going on until we come to this age. We thought maybe they was getting a Social Security check and a pension, and they was all sitting on the porch together and playing a guitar. And so we've come further than that. We have a much greater understanding than that. And I want to go into a little bit of what goes on in these times. There's times when there is a mass movement in the earth. The best mass movement that I could possibly point out in the earth, you go back to the 1960s. You had the protesting of the Vietnam War. You had the hippie movement that kind of moved out across the world. And you had all these things going on, and Woodstock came about. There was over 1 million people. I think they said like 2 million people at Woodstock. Mass movement into something on earth. And every once in a while you see that mass movement that takes place on earth where 100,000 people or 500,000. It's a mass movement, whether it's a movement towards new government or a movement towards whatever it might be. It happens. And we look at that and we say, wow, this mass movement really changed things. It changed this, it changed that. It changed our government. It changed the way our songs went. We had a mass movement when Elvis Presley came on the scene. And in this mass movement, when he came on the scene, music changed. Everything changed. And we moved in, and here come the Beatles, just an amazing mass movement of music. And then you get into guys who took that, the Rolling Stones and Jim Morrison and on and on and on, and they just brought us into a whole new world of music. Mm-hmm. And the entire world shifted in that. We see mass movements go on. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk a little more about how there's a mass movement among the dimensions. And maybe it'll help us understand what we are all doing and not just what a group of us in the earth are doing, those of us that are alive and remain and are here. So I want to read a couple things. Exodus, the 3rd chapter, the 7th verse, starts out through 10. Moses is at the burning bush, and so a voice is speaking out of the burning bush to Moses. And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people, which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by the reason of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows, and I am come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of that land unto a good land and a large, unto a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites, Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites. I'm bringing them unto this land. Now you just read all the nations that are already living in that land. So it's not like they're going somewhere where nobody had ever been before. People were living there. And you think you're going somewhere where ain't nobody ever been before, but I'm telling you, people are living there. Wherever you go, people are living there, people have lived there, and people are going to continue to live there. Whatever dimensions, wherever, as we move through them. And he said, I'm going to move you to this place. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come up unto me. So the cry in the natural of a slavery and an impoverished and burdened people, that cry was beginning to move throughout the dimensions. And this cry has come before me. I have seen the oppression wherewith the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people from the children of Israel out of Egypt. So there was a move dimensionally to free Israel from slavery. This is a dimensional move. You read it yourself. Who do you think the Lord is? You say, oh, there was a spirit hanging up there in the dimensional realms, and after a while the cry got loud enough that the spirit just said, oh my, I better drop down there, and I better take care of this situation. Well, how does the Lord move into the earth? How do you think he moves into the earth? Through people. And they were crying out, and they didn't want to be into slavery, so they began to drop down out of the heavens or out of the dimensional realms into the earth. And there were pharaohs that came down that didn't know Joseph and put him under more burden. And there were men like Moses that dropped down from heaven, from those dimensions into the earth, and began to grow up in the ways of Egypt. And there were mighty armies that raised up. And all these things, and people were coming out of one dimension into another and filling the place up in order to bring this deliverance. Years and years of impoverished slavery, getting harder and harder and harder to oppress the people so much, and moving people into the earth that were the taskmasters, that were the pharaohs, that were the prophets, and moving a mass exodus of people out of the dimensions. I, the Lord, have heard this. Who's the Lord? Us. And people came into the earth over a period of 40, 50, 60 years, filled up Egypt, filled up Israel, and there was a mass movement. And how many hundreds of thousands of them do you think came here for one reason? To exacerbate the problem, to protest against slavery. Theophanies don't just sit up there and say, oh my, such a horrible slavery. Whew, I'm glad I went through that. Whew, I'm past all that. I'm over here and I'm on my pension now. They're not doing that. They're constantly moving through the earth. And they moved into Egypt, and they brought all of this exacerbation, this lifting up of slavery and prolific treatment, of horrible treatment in every way, and it drove the people in the earth to die and die one after the other until they said, we're not building one more obelisk, we're not doing one more thing. And the protest from heaven, from the dimensions, the Lord heard it and moved himself into the earth and people and began to bring forth this great destruction upon Egypt. And it took years and generations to bring it to that. And the Lord said, I'm going to move them. You know, they were 40 years moving from Egypt into Canaan land. Think of the hundreds of thousands that were born into the wilderness. And the hundreds of thousands of the 2 million that came out. The hundreds of thousands that died in the wilderness. A constant moving and a flooding into the earth. That mass movement that started maybe 50 years before Moses ever came on the scene, being born into and doing everything that they were doing to put on this mass movement across from Egypt, across the Nile, across everywhere, the Red Sea, and move them over into Canaan's land. And then the mass movement of taking over that land. they are constantly doing things for us. They are constantly hearing the cry of the people. They are constantly doing all these things all the time and embodying themselves. You say, they can't do that, Brother Parnell. If Moses and Elijah can embody themselves into a man behind the pulpit in Jeffersonville, Indiana, and open up the sixth seal, what? The rest of the saints ain't spiritual enough? Did Jesus say, it's I in you and you in me? Where are the saints living? They're constantly moving in and out of that theophany realm, still living right here, working situations. And why do they do it? Why do you think they do it? It's a purpose to bring humanity to a better way, a more spiritual way, a more perfect way of living in a humanitarian condition in the earth. Because this earth is ours. Just because they're in a sixth dimension don't mean they're not living here. This earth is ours. All the dimensions are ours. And we are now, I want to read some scripture here in Ephesians. We're all working together. That's just one little example of how they worked together to bring about a deliverance. Ephesians 1, 9 to 11. Having made known unto us the mystery of his will, according to his good pleasure, which he hath purposed in himself, that in the dispensation of the fullness of times he might gather together in one all things in Christ, both which are in heaven and which are in earth, even in him. So there wasn't going to come a time where it was just a little pattern of something that happened for a season. There's going to come a time, Paul's saying, when this fullness and heaven and earth and theophany and humanity and flesh and blood and spirit and the word, it's all going to work together as one. And they're going to begin to bring a greater day, a greater age into the earth. And so he says it's a dispensation, the fullness of time, when heaven and earth are going to work together and become one, and which all those that are on earth, even in him, in whom also we have obtained an inheritance. So the whole purpose, what's the inheritance? How many of you know what your inheritance is? The earth. You've been given the earth as a great reward, as an inheritance, as a bloodline, as everything. It's all yours. And we're working together in heaven and earth to make this inheritance, to make this land that is ours, to make this body operate and function in the most effective way. Through governments, through politics, through religions, through all sorts of things, and men, humanity, every once in a while gets into such an uproar that we got to set some rules to this, and all of a sudden we got Judaism with all of his rules governing the earth, and then Christ come and he destroyed all that, and then here we come in 56 AD and we said, wow, what a great religion. We'll call it Christianity. We got to set some rules up for this. And then it goes to a time where we're in total darkness, and even the Holy Spirit himself, he put himself in chains so he could feel it just like we do. And for 2,000 years lived in those chains. And then we said, we had Judaism, we had Christianity, and then here come along Islam, Muhammad and all this and that, and you just get all of these mixtures, and everybody's got a set of rules, everybody got a set of principles, everybody's got an evidence as to whether or not the Spirit is living in you. And we go on, and then what has to happen, we get under such spiritual poverty and such burden that heaven and earth begin to work together to make a mass movement and to change things. Paul makes this statement. He says, Galatians 4, 1-7. Now I say that the heir, as long as he is a child, remember you're getting an inheritance, an heir receives an inheritance, that the heir, as long as he is a child, or as long as he holds a little mindset, tutors and governors and rules and principles, and you got to do this and you got to do that, he differs nothing from a servant. He has no power at all. Though he be Lord over all things, he doesn't know how to shift himself into that role. He doesn't know how to change his garments. And he's under tutors. Galatians 4:2, he's under tutors and governors till the time appointed of the Father. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of this world. But when the fullness of time was come, God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, under the law. So he makes a major shift out of the dimensions into the earth. Mm-hmm. Major shift. How does he do that? He flies down with wings, and he gets everybody all set up, and they major shift going on. Here comes the Messiah, and he's going to do so much to shift the governments and shift the people. No. Major shift. Angels singing, dropping in from the dimensional realms, coming into the earth. Over a period of a generation, they became Herod, they became Pilate, they began to move into the earth and put on these bodies and embody themselves in people to make this huge shift. Millions of them came to turn on Jesus and crucify him.
Yeah. Yep.
You mean from heaven?
Yep.
Yes. Because something had to bring this major change in the earth. So they came into the earth. And many of them came to follow Jesus. And many of them came to... And Jesus was the center point. This spoken word body that moved out of the dimensions. And a mass movement from heaven into the earth. To change the government in the earth. That's what this is about. Yeah. When we're changing government, when we're changing politics, when we're changing... dimensional structures, when the earth needs to change, and we need to move into the earth and acclimate everything to move with the change, here comes a great mass movement. A mass movement of people to come into the earth when only 8 of them was going to walk to the other side. You mean, Brother Parnell, they came here to die in order to change the government, to change the way the earth operated, to do a polar flop, to bring the ice ages and bring all these things into view. They came here to do that. Yes. Mass movements into the earth. So he says, when the fullness of time came, there come a shift. The Spirit sent forth sonship into the earth. How did he do that? Well, he put it in the journal news. He told everybody, I'm coming now. Sunday morning news, flash. It's on CNN. Yeah. Sonship is here now. Everybody start acting like sons. Yeah. Everybody start moving around, calling one another son, acting like sons. You know how that goes. The Spirit did it.
We're all brothers.
Yeah. It's not like that. How did the Spirit move sonship into the earth? People. He moved it in through people. He moved it in through mass movement coming out of heaven into the earth. That was such a great mass movement that it brought forth a huge shift in governmental ways of governing the earth. Theophanies helping establish a new government in the earth, new politics in the earth. a new way of living in the earth. It happens more than you think. They're not over there. They're watching through the dimensional realms saying, when's it time? How long, O Lord, Spirit, till I move in and do my part? I'm willing to go down there, put on a mask and die in COVID-19 to protest against the way the governments are doing and everything else. I want the governments to change again. How do I do that? And they're moving into the earth in mass movements to do exactly that. I want there to be communication in a greater way in the earth. How do I do that? Well, for a generation, Pluto came in, become the generation planet. And Pluto is all about communication. And Pluto shifted the orbits and sent communication into the earth. And here come telegraphs, and then telephones, and then smartphones and TVs and computers and flat screens and people flying to the moons and technology, to where you got more technology laying on this table this morning than they had to go to the moon to start with.
Yeah.
Pluto, communication, people, angels, great theophany realm said we need to change this up to where we can make the earth one again. And the first way we make the earth one is set up a communication system. Right. If they can't communicate with one another, they can't be one.
That's right. Yeah.
So we go through 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, and everybody says it's going to kill everybody. Well, it might kill a lot of people. It might. 5G might kill a lot of people. And the theophany realm is saying, they need a lot of people to die down there. I'm willing to go through there. I'm willing to die from the 5G. I'm willing to move in there and sacrifice myself and let so many of them die in order that we can move to a greater system, in order that we can put a grid across the earth to where every little corner of the earth we can communicate. Because we need that communication if we're going to set up a humanitarian life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's different than what you think. It's going on all the time. So here we are now. He says, this fullness of time that came into the earth, he sent his son, made of a woman, made under the law, moved right in, began to bring about all the changes, all the people around him. He picked his disciples. Different people came to him. Pharisees began to raise up. Sadducees began to raise up. Theophanies were moving into the earth in mass movement by the hundreds of thousands, millions, in order to bring all these things to pass, to kill and lame and pass and let so many die in order that... You say, why would they just come to die, Brother Parnell? To bring on recognition. What do you think the Hilla movement came for in 1946? Why do you think so many came from the theophany realm just to get in a sick condition? Mm-hmm. So that a prophet who came from the theophany realm drops in here and heals them all. Mm-hmm. And everybody says, my God, look at the movement of the Lord, and shifts the whole generation of church ages into a brand new movement. Mm-hmm. On a protest against the underprivilege of how they were living. And the theophany realms protested and said, we're going to go in there and die by the thousands and get healed by the millions and shift this ugly way of which humanity is going. Mm-hmm. It's happening all the time. They are not sitting on the porch playing Build Me a Cabin in the Corner of Glory Land.
They're constantly regenerating themselves.
That's right. Constantly.
For the purpose of progress.
And it's going on as one. Remember Ephesians, I read you Ephesians 1. Heaven and earth are now working together. Matthew 22. Well, let's read the rest of this. So what did they come for? To redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. So there was a new age of sonship coming in, and a mass movement was made to proliferate them and catapult them into the new age. That's what it was for. Because ye are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts. Here they came. Mass movement. Flooding into the earth to bring about the glorification of sonship. That's what it was about. And they're moving into the earth to do many things now. And he says, and because ye are sons, God has sent forth the Spirit of His Son into your hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Wherefore, thou art no more servant. How did you move from servant, from law, from rule and regulation, into a person of inheritance? We move there by a mass movement from the dimensional realms into the earth, proliferate the death, the crucifixion, and they were protesting. You say, what were they protesting, Brother Parnell? If they came here to protest, what were they protesting? The law of Moses.
Yeah, sure were.
They were protesting the law of Moses. They said, it's time for us to get out from under this. Moses' law has become just as much of a slavery as Egypt was.
Yeah.
And we're under slavery. We're under tutors and governors. All these things are happening. And it's time to shift the whole world out of servitude into sonship. And they came by the millions. Let's watch. Now we're talking about little ages. Not even ages. We're talking about little patterns of 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, like
and then,
isolated events.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Isolated events. And then it kind of goes away. And so they're talking to Jesus one day. Pharisees, many of them Sadducees, and they were talking about, servants and the laws and how you handle this and how you do that. And so they came to him one day in Matthew 22, verse 33. The same day they came to him, the Sadducees, which say that there is no resurrection, and asking. So here's all those Sadducees and here's all the people, and they're listening. Saying, Master, Moses said. See, Jesus is there to bring them out of the law of Moses, to bring a proliferation of sonship and move us out of that law and slavery and servitude under Moses. And they're going to bring back Moses' law and slapping him in the face with it. You think you're here to do all these things. Well, who was these people? You say, well, Brother Parnell, they was just mean people. Oh, they were theophany realm. And put on bodies and grew up with moms and dads and put on robes and stepped out there and began to come against, protest against Jesus is what it looked like. But really, that's the only way they could get them out of the law was to put Jesus on a cross and crucify him and move him out from the law of Moses. So they were those theophanies dropping into the earth. One prophet said, dew like heaven falling upon the earth. Just dropping, theophanies, coming into the earth, putting on bodies. That day they came to him and they didn't believe in a resurrection. And they said, Master, Moses said, if a man die, because they were trying to disprove the resurrection, having no children, his brother shall marry his wife and raise up seed unto his brother. Now there were with us 7 brethren. Strange why they said 7. There were with us 7 brethren. And the first, when he had married a wife, deceased. And having no issue, he left his wife to his brother. Issue meaning having no seed planted in the lady. So the lady didn't have no children. He dies. She gets given to the brother, according to the law. Now there were with us 7 brethren. First dies, she gets handed down. And then the second also, and the third, and the fourth, unto the 7th. So we have seven brethren passing down sonship. That's what they were trying to bring forth. Children, heirs. It was all about sonship. And they're passing down this seed of sonship down through the ages. 7 brethren, from Paul to Irenaeus to Martin to Columba to Luther to Wesley to Branham. And they're all messengers, passed from one brother to the next. And then we come to the end. All of these brethren die. And it says, all of the brethren die. And then they make this little quote. I like it. And last of all, the woman died. What's the woman?
The church.
The church. Last of all, the church dies. There's no more spirit left in the church. There's nothing left for us to feel good about. There's no messengers left to go have a relationship with. All of it dies. All the messengers are gone. All of them are, quote, on the other side. And then the spirit of the woman dies. She's done. Boy, aren't we there?
Yeah, we are.
Aren't we there?
Yeah.
The woman has died also. Last of all, the woman dies. Therefore, Sadducees, therefore, in the resurrection, whose wife shall she be of the 7? For they all had her. They all had a relationship with her. Which one is she married to? You know, boy, everybody in the message is asking that question now.
Yes, they are.
Who's the bride? Where's the bride at? This is the whole bride, but who's she married to? You know, on and on and on. She married to William Branham. She married to Paul. She married Cephas. Who'd she marry? Jesus answered and said unto them, listen to me. There's an age that comes after the 7 brethren have died and after the church has died. There's an age, and the age is called resurrection. All of it begins to come as one. All of those that have crossed to the other side, all of those living in the earth, heaven and earth becomes a fullness of time. And who's who here? Who belongs to who? Who belongs to Luther's message? Who belongs to Wesley's message? Who belongs to William Branham's message? It's the greatest message of them all. Who belongs to what here? Who belongs to the Old Testament? Who belongs to... Don't we all have our compartments? Some goes to this corner, some goes to that corner. Some lives in log cabins, and some lives in open fields, and we got nomads, and we got everybody. And who do we belong to? What's going to go on here? I know we all got a pension coming. I know that. We worked hard enough. Surely the Lord's got a pension plan where we all go live in peace. What's going on here, Jesus, in the resurrection time, after the 7 church ages are over and the church is dead? What comes then after the Bible's finished? After it's time to lay it on the shelf? After it's time that all the writers are finished? After it's time when that last man, William Branham, makes a cry out, in this day this scripture is fulfilled, and said, all visions have been fulfilled. It's done.
Yeah.
It's over.
Yep.
It's finished. In the rapture book, he says there are 6 raptures. There are 3 in the Old Testament. There are 3 in the New Testament. All of them passed.
Yep.
Where do we go? What's going to happen? Hey, Brother Allen. Where do we go to, and what's going to happen, Brother Parnell? How's it going to come to be? What's going to happen in the resurrection age? Do you have your... Is everything still on there? Everything doing okay? Sometimes I get worried that,
It's sounding good on my way here. So.
Okay.
Yeah, everything's just moving right along.
Okay. Yeah, I'll bring it up here. Get out from under the locked condition. but looks like they are Tori Allianza. Think about what I'm talking about. We're past the Bible. We're past all those things. We're past the seven brethren. The church is dead.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all this. And now where are we at? What's going on? There you go. What's going on around us now? What's the prophecies say? We're not living in a prophecy anymore.
Not.
Even the prophet said, it's so dark out there. And we all said, oh my God, devils everywhere. He said, it's so dark out there. They're going into such an unknown position in the earth that I myself don't even really understand it. I can't see past 1977. There's going to be millennial reigns. Government's going to be set up in the earth. The kingdoms are going to become the kingdoms of our Lord. I don't know exactly how it's going to be because I can't see past 77. It's dark. What was he saying? We got no understanding past there. So here we are sitting in 2020, 50 years afterwards. My God, surely we're not still in the darkness. Don't we know what's going on in the resurrection? Let's watch Jesus. Jesus answered and said unto them, ye do err. You err, guys. You just have no understanding about when the fullness comes, when the resurrection comes. You don't know the scripture. You don't know the revelation, the power of the Spirit, the power of God. You know what he said? You don't have a revelation about that time, so why are you asking about it? You'd never understand it if I told you.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus is saying to you. You have no power. Paul said the power is the revelation. Jesus said you don't have a revelation of that. So why are you asking me? You have no power. You don't know the scriptures. But I'll tell you this. In the resurrection, in that age when it comes, down the road, 2,000 years away from Jesus, in that age, they won't marry. And everybody says, you're not supposed to marry anymore. Do you really think Jesus is talking about that? They won't marry, for they are neither married nor given in marriage. What's he saying?
What?
There's neither male nor female.
There you go. Yep.
He's not saying Rick shouldn't be married to Lily, or Don shouldn't be married to Patty, or Alan to Audrey. He's not saying that
It's true.
at all. But what he's saying is they've come to a point to where we come to a relationship way beyond a marriage.
Mm-hmm.
We come to a level playing field where that I realize that my wife and my wife realizes that my husband, that together we are capable of doing all things, and one by himself can't do those things. But we come to a collective revelation, and we're neither given nor taken in marriage, or in other words, there's not going to be a hierarchy there. When they come into that age of resurrection, there's not going to be a hierarchy. They're going to come as one. And heaven and earth are not going to be in a marriage anymore, like heaven is superior and the earth people are saying, oh, God, it's getting terrible. And that's not it. That's not what it's about. They're not over there on a pension plan waiting on us to come. They ain't getting Social Security checks. They're with us. They're acting. And we come into an age to where all of this hierarchy and putting people up here and putting people over here and making this ethnic group live on the other side of the tracks and making this Jewish bunch of people the most holy in the world and it's all done. We're in a resurrection. We're neither given or taken in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
We're not doing it. It's a level playing field. We are one collective body. For in the resurrection, they neither form any hierarchies. They don't live in a superior or an inferior position. but they are as the angels in heaven. So the earth begins to do what? Take on a mass movement from heaven to earth. There's a mass movement going on right now, because just like there was a government change in Moses' day, a government change in Noah's day, a government change in Adam's day, and mass movements came from heaven to earth, and there's a government change in Jesus' day and a government change in William Branham's day. There's a government change going on, people.
Yeah.
It's happening, and heaven and earth are working together to bring about this new movement from sonship, which we are done with. Well, I'm waiting on manifestation of the sons of God. My Lord, what do you think you've been watching for 2,000 years? From the day of Pentecost until now. The manifestation of the sons of God. And that sonship is over. Son of man, son of God, son of David is complete. Put it on the shelf.
Yeah.
Come into the resurrection, where we're all one. We're all living as one. We're all in the same movement together. And we're not giving and taking in marriage. We don't have hierarchies. We don't have superiors. We don't have 5 offices above everybody else. We don't have gifts flying through the church, and that person's spiritual because they ran their mouth for a few minutes and we didn't understand it. So now we need a real spiritual one over here to interpret it. It's all that's done.
It's all dead. It's all dead.
We've moved into something new.
Yep.
Jesus says that. There's angels. There's going to be a mass movement. Heaven and earth are going to combine. They're going to come together. And they're going to set up a government of one. And we're not going to a superior place. And we're not living in an inferior place. It's all a level playing field now. Listen to him. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, here we are now, in the resurrection of the dead, living as angels, neither giving nor taking in marriage, not having any churches. I'm not married to a pastor. I'm not married to a church building. I'm not married to any of these things. Spiritually, we are one now. No hierarchy. Me and my wife live together in love and relationship. We're not, quote, married to one another in that fashion anymore. We've moved way beyond that. But as touching the resurrection of the dead, have you not read that which is spoken unto you? I am the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac and the God of Jacob. He's not the God of the dead, but the God of the living. Don't you understand that in the resurrection we're not walking around as dead people? We're alive. We're not walking around in hierarchies trying to resurrect people from the dead. The resurrection is alive. It's living in us. We're speaking it. We're moving it. We're awaking people. They're not dead anymore. They are waking up. It's a day of resurrection. It's an age of resurrection. And when the multitude heard this, you know what they thought? My good Lord, when's that age coming? When's that going to happen? And we, in theophany realm, at the time, maybe going there to crucify him, we shifted. Maybe going there to praise him, lift all that up. Maybe going there to die for him by the millions. You say, Brother Parnell, that doesn't happen. Don't you read your church ages? Didn't you read how the Lord moved into the earth in the spirit of a lion? Yeah. Here, lion come down from heaven, busted everything up. Lion was running around there, roaring and everything else. It's people. They shifted from heaven into earth in a mass movement and changed the governmental walk into roaring like a lion and bringing this message into the earth into a new day. And then there was a great shift. and the theophany realm and the people and all the, they said, if we're going to take ourselves through a resurrection, if we're going to understand it, and if we want to learn more, we need to shift, and let's move ourselves into the earth in the form of an ox.
Mm-hmm.
So here come a bunch of big bulls flying down out of heaven. No. Here came people being born. A whole generation of people being born, and they put on a sacrificial spirit, and they walked into those arenas and let them slaughter and kill and maim and burn them at the stake. And even our prophet William Branham said they never could have done it. They could not have done it unless the Spirit moved into the earth to have them in nature do it and enjoy it. And say, this is what we came for. We're protesting the earthly governments and the way they're doing. And this is what we came for. And when all these things happen, and we started educating ourselves, what happened? We moved into an age where we said, we don't want any of these sacrifices anymore. What happened? All that protest helped. Those 68 million that died were in protest of the way humanity was treating itself. And we set up laws and we set up things and we moved ourselves in a humanitarian way to where we stopped slaughtering people. And we moved into an educational age. And here come the Spirit and said, you know what? We all need to begin to shift as we're being born into the earth. We need to shift into the face of a man. We need to become the people in the universities. We need to become the smart people, the educated people. And they did it. Mass movements affect the earth in a great way. And William Branham came. Jesus said, touching the resurrection, this is not dead people. These are alive people. Living in the earth in the time of the resurrection. We're looking at mass movement now. We're looking at mass movement among the dimensions. When we read these types of scriptures, which I've given you enough scripture, Moses, Noah, right on down the line, Jesus, the messengers of each age. When we read these types of scriptures and things, in these type times, theophanies make a shift into the earth. And they see what's coming, they see what's happening, and they shift themselves into the earth to protest the politics, the governments, the way things are going, the hierarchies and everything else, to bring on a mass killing, bring on a mass protest, and they move into the earth in masses in order to make a shift, to pull people away, to say, oh, that was ugly. We don't want to go there anymore. We don't want to that was ugly. We said, the Spirit said, I'm never going to slaughter the earth the way we did in Noah's day. It's not going to happen. That was ugly. And humanity set itself up to never do that again. We're looking at all these mass movements. In these type theophanies, they rain down from heaven, like dew dropping into the earth. And a mass movement takes place from the dimensional realms, brings heaven into earth, Ephesians 1, and brings us together. It happened for isolated periods. It happened for patterns for us to look at. But now it's not a pattern. This is the age where all dimensions are working together. That Moses and Elijah and Jeremiah and Hosea and Ruth and Deborah and all of us, by the millions and millions, are shifting about, helping one another to take the earth into another major shift. Some of the scriptures. So we see this happening. Theophanies rain down from heaven, shift into the earth, dropping into the earth a mass movement from the dimensions to bring heaven and earth together for a season. Some come through birth, some in body, some come in all different ways, to make sure that we all together, as I sit here and you sit here, and we work towards the shift, towards the shape shifting. We work all those things we can. We have all of this help by the millions throughout the dimensions, working for us all to move to the same result. Working. A mass movement from the dimensions brings heaven and earth together for a season, for a purpose to enhance, listen to the purpose, to enhance humanity, to bring on a greater relationship with the earth, so that we all, dimensionally, can live here in peace, in harmony. And in this Aquarian age, the imagination takes us there. But the imagination also carries you into a lot of chaos, a lot of trial, a lot of error. World War I's, World War II's, slaughtering of dictators. What's going on? We're all working together to bring about a greater humanitarian world. A world that cares about her body, the earth. A world that cares about spirits living here, theophanies. A world that cares about humanity in general. A world where we can raise our children and keep bringing the generations through the earth in a greater way, without bringing up so much slavery, so much impoverished, so much of all these things. So we move here in mass numbers to exacerbate and proliferate the poverty. And they die by the millions in Sudan and Somalia. Who were those people? You say they didn't have any purpose in life. Well, they sure did. They're special people who said over there in the other realm, we're going to go there and we're going to starve to death and we're going to die in order to bring the light, the spotlight on that thing, and make humanity serve itself in a better way. We were walking yesterday in a little town, and I was kind of talking with Brother Rick about some of these things. He said, Jesus, he said, I will never look at these people as the same again. I said, some of these people are here with masks on. It's a protest by the millions across the world. It's a protest of how the medicine world, the pharmaceutical world, the virus world, all of these worlds are trying to bring chaos into the earth. And there's a great protest now. They came here for that.
They came here for that purpose.
He says, they came here for the purpose, I wrote this down, to enhance humanitarian living, or bring humanity into alignment with the flow of the Spirit for its day and for its hour. Joel 2:23. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your God. For he hath given you the former rain moderately. He has given you all these examples of isolated little things. He poured out theophanies into the earth to get this done and this done and this done in a little moderate way, so we can see a pattern. When we get to the resurrection age, we can kind of see a pattern of what's going on. He poured it out, the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the former and the latter rain in the first month. When we step into the resurrection age, it's all going to come together and we're all going to become one. And all who have been doing this, we've got our experience now, and we're going to flow together and we're going to become one. And this is going to become an age of dimensions and people and all these working together to level out the playing field and stop thinking of people over there as superior and people over here as inferior, and stop thinking great theophanies over there way beyond us, and if we can ever get through our experience in here, we're going to be as great as them ones. Stop all that nonsense and realize that we are doing just as great a work right here, and we are changing them just like they are changing us, and we are one together, working together to bring this earth into a a condition and then acclimate ourselves to living in it.
Yes.
Former and latter rain. What do you think? That's rain clouds?
Yeah.
And then, I'll bring you good rain once in a while so you feel good. That's theophanies dropping into the earth.
Exactly.
Zechariah 10:1. Ask ye of the Lord rain in the time of the latter rain. When you get into the resurrection, if you want help, ask. Will you move into the earth with us? Can I get some help from somebody? You remember in 2014, I began to scream out, Gemini, come forth. Some people thought I was crazy, but I knew that with Joseph and Reuben in the earth, Benjamin had to show up. There had to come this great Benjamin in the earth, which was an emblem of Gemini, and that would bring the Father, the Son, that would bring all the earthly realms and bring it all together and make it one. And I was screaming, Gemini, show up, come on. Ilario, Gemini. Mita Edwardson, Gemini. Edna Cochran or Gomez, Gemini. I could just keep naming the Geminis that are helping me. The sisters, some of them are Gemini. And you know what happened? I was screaming for it. And I remember some people, one sister, she said, I'm Gemini. I'll help you any way I can. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you need. I'm feeding you. I built you a room. I've done all these things for you. Gemini. But you know what happened? I was screaming it from 2014, and in 2016, here come a man named Donald Trump, a Gemini, who took the presidential office to change the whole political realm. Yep. And not only was he a Gemini, but here come Mike Pence, another Gemini out of Indiana, to take the vice presidency, and they imprinted Gemini throughout the earth.
Yep.
Look at the whole world moving after a Gemini spirit. That's your Baltimore Oriole going right there. Moving the whole world into a Gemini spirit, so that Reuben was weak. Aquarian is weak without a Gemini there to reveal itself in the Aquarian age, and now it's happening. And Putin is a Libra, and I could just keep going on and on. Trudeau is a Libra, and Gemini and Aquarius, and there's all different. The major happening in the earth today is all air signs, from Russia to Canada to the United States to Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu, a Libra. You just go on and on and on. It's the air signs pulling together. When a little guy, Don Parnell, a Tory, was screaming for it, I knew it had to happen. You know what I was doing? I was calling a major shift out of heaven, calling theophanies into the earth. Reveal yourself, show yourself, bring that ministry into the earth, and begin to open the earth up and flood the earth with it. It's happening all around us now. This happens. Ask ye of the Lord. When you get into the resurrection, just ask. They're here to help us. They're here to help us move through. Ask ye of the Lord rain. So the Lord shall make bright clouds. Yeah. Bright clouds. Angels. Moving into human bodies. Dealing and helping us all the time. So the Lord can bring you bright clouds and give you showers of blessings. Remember the old song? There shall be showers of blessing. Yeah, it's happening now. Great blessings raining down from heaven. Showers of rain to bring to you what? Everyone's grass of the field. Do you know what the book of Psalms says grass is? It's flesh. Raining theophanies down into there to raise up in flesh. Bring about the grass of the field and let them begin to take over the earth. This is not a crazy revelation. It just sounds crazy. Isaiah 55, verse 10 and 11. For as the rain cometh down, and the snow from heaven, and returneth not hither, it drops into the earth and stays there, but watereth the earth, and maketh it to bring forth of its bud and of its kind, to bring forth in your season, that it may give seed to the sower, and bread to the eater, so that we all can begin to move in our day and our message. So shall my word, it's talking about rain coming down from heaven, theophanies, word. So shall my word drop down and go forth out of my mouth. It turns into people.
Yeah.
And it goes forth out of our mouth. It shall not return unto me void. It'll bring forth what it's supposed to bring forth in the earth. Shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. And it shall prosper in the things whereunto I have sent into the earth. We're doing it together. The prophets watched it. They prophesied of it. They gave us isolated incidents. And now here we are in it. And it's coming forth all over the earth.
And this is global.
Global
This
thing.
is the whole
Yes.
earth.
And every dimension that's living globally. The whole thing. Become one now and leveling out the playing fields. 1946. William Branham. You can go back and look it up yourself. I'm not going to go back and read everything. William Branham was ministering in 1946. And he said, 37 years ago, the orbits changed in the heavens. And a great healing gift dropped into the earth. Because the church was living below its privileges. Okay, let's take 1946 and let's go back 37 years.
Yeah.
1909, a great healing gift dropped into the earth. William Branham.
Yep.
A great healing ministry. The orbits of the heaven changed. The heavens, the theophanies, not a bunch of stars out there. The theophanies also, we need to change things up. This church is getting ready to end and they're still living below their privileges. So they moved in the earth in mass numbers and said, let's go down there and get sick. Let's bring polio. Let's bring diseases. Let's bring all these things into the earth. And let's all go down there and we'll all be sick. So when this great healing gift hits, William Branham and Jack Coe and A.A. Allen, and when all this great healing ministry hits, it'll proliferate and catapult this church into the great miracles, the signs, and the wonders. Let's do this now. And they all begin to flow into the earth in 1909. And by 1946, all of those sick were here living. That's what they planned on doing, being sick.
Yeah.
They wanted to bring this mass movement. And then here went the healing gift. Spearheaded a great revival. William Branham brings it out. Heals the sick, raises the dead, does all of these things. And all these men, Jack Coe, A.A. Allen, T.L. Osborne, they see it. They say, my God, Oral Roberts, we can do this. And they proliferated the church, pushed it right up to where the seals could open. They had so much faith, so much knowledge, so much understanding of what could happen. It was time for the seals to open. And William Branham makes a statement when he opens the seals in the seventh seal. He says, don't worry. This is not for you. But there's a group of people dropping into the earth. They're going to get it. Just be still.
Yeah.
Live your Christian life. Go to church. Do what you need to do. There's coming a people. Yeah. When the seven brethren are gone and the woman dies, the church is dead and the prophets are gone, there's coming a people out of the cloud. And they're going to drop like dew into the earth. And they're going to catch this thing. They're going to understand it. 37 years before, they began to come into the earth in a mass movement because the church was living below its privileges. Now 1963 comes. William Branham opens up those 7 seals. And everybody's sitting around in confusion. They don't know what to do. The healing ministry is dying down. It's moving because we're moving to something greater. We're moving to a greater glory. And William Branham opens the seals, and he brings a whole new message into the earth. And what does the heavens do? Shows up in a great cloud, 1963, and begins to drop the dews of heaven, begins to drop theophanies into the earth, being born left and right. Born millions and hundreds and millions, getting ready for a few of these angels that William Branham went and met. He went into that cloud. William Branham opened those seals. He said that he went into the cloud there over Sunset Mountain. Just go read your 7th seal. And while he was in that cloud, he met a certain group of angels. He went to a certain place. Yeah, Paul, Irenaeus, Martin, Columba, Luther, Wesley, all those people, all of them. But he went on to meet up with a certain group of angels that had not yet brought their ministry into the earth. And William Branham went there. The cloud, he met a certain group of angels who had not yet entered their ministry in the earth. They were still preparing. It was the next great mystery to unfold. They held all the mysteries. They had the power of Moses and Elijah. He said they had the power that the word would come out of their mouth. I will drop to you as dew from heaven, and I shall go forth as the word out of your mouth. You're the ones doing it. It ain't something out here that's doing it. It's coming out of you. He said it comes out of your mouth. 4th seal, he said there'll come a group of people. He said they will understand what's going on. He said they'll call heaven and earth to order. He said the sword of the word will come out of their mouth like fire. He said they will purge this, they will do that. Miracles, signs, and wonders. Nothing shall stand before them. Here we are. It's coming out of our mouth. We're calling heaven and earth to order. We're bringing it to one and saying, here's what's going on. It's going on all around us. We begin to drop into the earth. After that 7th seal, we began to drop into the earth. William Branham was standing in the church in Jeffersonville, finishes up the 7 seals, and you know who was there? The man-child, all of us, began to enter the earth. And do you know who was sitting in the Branham Tabernacle? Waiting to devour that child? The red dragon. Sitting there waiting to devour that child before it could get anything going. And you know what happened? You know where all of us went. We went into the dragon. We all went into what was, he ate us. But we were the man-child. We had the prophecies. We had the word in us. And we went immediately to the heart of the dragon. We went to the throne and we began to change the dragon. And out in the world, you know what was happening? At the same time, great protest, hippie movement. And they shifted into the world by the millions to protest what? They were protesting the Vietnam War. They were protesting all of this communist rule and capitalistic rule. And they were protesting and they were dying by the millions. They were giving up their jobs. They were doing everything. It all ended up in Woodstock and everything else. Great protests happening, dying by the millions around the world. And the protest was against the Red Dragon.
Yeah.
Don't you know what the emblem of Vietnam was?
Yeah.
The Red Dragon. So we went into the mouth of the dragon and protested everything, but it didn't look like much of a change took place, but it took place.
Yeah. The hippie movement, the peace, the love, calling for
All
love,
of those
and
things.
peace.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was going on. Who were those people? Some of the most special, blessed people in all the earth that shifted from heaven to earth to help us and proliferate the change that was going on and move us out of the slavery of the past. It was a great day. And we come through what? They came through 40 years in Moses' day. They came through 40 years in Jesus' day, from the time the birth of John the Baptist and all those things. They came through 40 years after William Branham's day. 2002 comes up after 1963. And here comes a great shift. William Branham begins to talk to some of the angels that he met in the cloud. And he begins to show us a greater way. And we begin to move that way. And as we begin to move that way, now here we are in our maturity, and there's hundreds of angels across Philippines and Africa and Asia and South America and the United States, and there's hundreds of thousands of angels who came here for the purpose of establishing the message in the earth. I think the Spirit, I'm one of them. And after 40 years, you know who shows up again? They had to battle that red dragon. They had to go into the body of that red dragon. They had to battle it in the earth. We go 40 some years, and who shows up again? Who's taken over the economic part of the world? Who's trying to do it? Who brought the Wuhan virus? Who brought all these things into the earth? Who brought SARS into the earth? Who brought HIV into the earth? Who brought all these things into the earth? Where do you think it all came from? The red dragon. China, with their flag and their emblem of the red dragon. And here we are, battling. You know what we're doing right now? We're changing the economic system of the red dragon.
Yep.
It's a great protest. Say, those are mean people. Those China people, they're a loving group that moved here from heaven to earth to proliferate the horrible things about the red dragon. So we would change.
Mm-hmm.
So we would change it up and make it a better humanitarian place. We looked at all the horrible things that took place down through the church ages, that ungodly whore, that Catholic Church, that filthy no good thing. So we made a mass movement, a shift into the earth, and we changed the garments of Rome. And Rome is not the Antichrist anymore, as much as you might think it is. Rome is the financial officers of the earth. Yep. And Rome is handling Rome is keeping you eating and walking and living and having an economic life. Having bread on your table. Where do you think all this money's coming from? In the middle of a COVID lockdown. It's all happening in the earth. Blessed group of people, those people that are Roman. I love them. Blessed group of people that raised up over there in China, brought us these diseases and viruses. You get all mad at them. Blessed group of people that shut down the whole world so they could set up 5G. Special angels from heaven with all the communication power of Pluto come into the earth and shut the whole earth down so they could set up 5G. And when you come back up in June 1, 5G is going to be in every corner of the earth, everywhere. A great communicative system that will carry us closer into a one world government. Couldn't have gotten to a one world government without it. Mighty angels. Strong angels. Moving about the earth, doing these things for. Oh, but it's going to kill people, Brother Parnell. Mighty angels that chose to come here and die to set it up. I've just never heard this before. I've never heard this side of it before. Well, listen up. There's a whole lot more coming. We came into the earth. The seals open. We begin to drop into the earth to bring about this great proliferation of the red dragon, to bring about this great proliferation of communication, to bring all these things in the earth and to get ourselves set up as one. We begin to move from the theophany realm into the earth to bring this ministry that you're hearing right here this morning, to be here and to bring the next great announcement.
Yep.
This is a great announcement taking place in the earth. Pluto, the communication, came. And Gemini began to set up 5G. They began to set up all these communication systems. They began to put satellites into outer space. They began to ping everything off. They began to put a smartphone in your hand that you could ping off of every one of those satellites. And in 6-7 seconds be talking to somebody sitting in the Philippines on the opposite side of the world. have a video that you can watch this morning. Gemini at work.
Yeah.
Mighty angels bringing all this communication to us. Jupiter. Libra. Libra is the governmental. Jupiter is what it rules it. And Jupiter is a protector of the earth. How many knows that? Have you studied Jupiter any at all? Yeah. Jupiter protects the earth. You know what it does? Before all these meteorites and all these horrible huge stones of ice in the outer space, before they reach the earth, they got to pass by Jupiter. Yeah. And Jupiter's gravitational pull pulls them into their gravitational pull and burns them up or lets them crash into Jupiter so that the earth doesn't roll. What's going on? Some angel, some people, some Lord somewhere thought about how to protect the earth. Mm-hmm. And they sent out a clinker out into the heavens and set it right there. And all the things that are going to happen, the earth's not going to have to work. Oh, there's a planet X coming. Well, Jupiter took care of that. There's a comet coming, going to smash into the earth. And Jupiter took care of that. The planetational pull of Jupiter pulls them, and they go right into the sun, and they disintegrate. What a great protection. Thank you, Libra. All of you Libra angels that flow into the earth and give us all this government to protect us, to feed us, to take care of us. Yeah, that's a real pension plan.
Yeah.
Not talking about money. It's a great package. Yeah. This is, talk about a Social Security check. What a great thing going on all around it. All these little bitty things they're all little isolated patterns. Jupiter, our protection. Uranus. You know what Uranus does? You've studied Uranus. Uranus pulls out the imagination in you. Uranus pulls out the unknown. Uranus causes your spirit to seek and long and go after things that you once thought impossible. Uranus, imagination. Aquarius is ruled by Uranus. So the sun and Uranus are now bringing their dominant feeling into the earth, and we're taking communication, and we're taking the protection and Jupiter, and we're taking all the things that are happening all around us, and we're just proliferating it. Our imagination is going wild with it, and every once in a while it sends us into chaos. That's Aquarians. You ever feel like I take you into chaos with all this stuff I'm talking about? But take it easy. We're going to bust through the sound barrier, and it's going to be real smooth on the other side. We're going to break the speed of light, and we're going to begin to live in eternity beyond any speed, beyond any barriers, beyond anything. We have broke out into it. Aquarius, and your imagination has pushed you there. It's happening all around us. Mass movements of people from heaven to earth and from earth to heaven. It's not just people over there trying to figure out how to come here and help, and it's not just people here trying to get out of here and go somewhere else, and it's not just people who have gotten out of here and gone, and then they got to sit back on their pension plan and wait and drink milk and honey. And no, that's not it. We're all working together. And Moses and Elijah come to the prophet, and they say, hey, we've been through this before. We had to open up that sixth seal. We had to blow the earth up. We had to destroy Egypt. I had to slaughter prophets after prophets. I had to do all these things. We're here to help you. And a whole ministry moved in and helped the prophet open it up. They came. Those who had already been through it came back. And those who had not been through it yet, the seventh seal people in the cloud who had not been through it, they said, just call for us. We're ready. Open them seals. We'll drop into the earth. We'll do what we got to do. We're all working together now. It's a great movement. You know, there was still some leftovers of that red dragon. I think we need to bring that thing back up. So we can conquer its economics, we can conquer it, we can destroy it, we can make the earth a better place, get rid of their unhumanitarian ways, their communistic way of life. We can destroy it. Let's bring it all up one more time, and all of them begin to flood into the earth, lift it up, so we can do what? Change it. We're looking at it and we're saying, that's wrong. The things they did are wrong. Let's put this virus out there. Let's put this 5G out there. Let's put all these things out there in protest of the way we have communicated with one another, of the way we have treated one another in humanitarian ways. And we flood into the earth and we die to make something better. Wonderful theophanies. They never heard of Don Parnell. They never heard of William Branham. They didn't have no message like that. They come here for one reason: to die, to get sick, to do all these things and bring all these changes about. I'm going to hurry here. There was a mass movement to shift from the unseen dimensions into the earth to bring the next message. To protest through protesting of the present corrupt geographical governments. That's what's going on right now. 5G, all the protests against these governments, all these wars. You got a Gemini, two Geminis sitting in the office that want to bring their boys home.
Yeah.
Donald Trump ain't trying to create a war. He's trying to get them boys home. And there's a whole bunch of lovely angels called Democrats. Much as I love them. They make me angry. But they're here to proliferate the situation. And force us into making a humanitarian change. Yeah, there's some Republican angels, guys like me.
Yeah.
Let's put a little bit of humor into this thing. Protesting the present corrupt geographical governments. And we're moving everything to a meeting in the air, meeting Gemini, Aquarius, and Libra. We moved it to a meeting in the air. The spirit of Aquarius. Aquarius is the highest level. Then Gemini is the communication. And then Libra is the government. Look at all the effects in the earth right now that are happening based on what I'm talking about. What's this 5G? You ought to be able to walk away happy right now. What is this 5G? It's a great communication, and there's been a mass movement from heaven to set it all up so we can have a better system of communication in the earth and begin to love and move in one another. What are these chips that are beginning to go in people? It's so we can communicate and we can take care of one another. And when something goes off rogue and wants to try and do something and move out of the humanitarian ways, we're able to take care of it. You know, that little chip's there, and we're able to put a drone right there after them and move them to the next world. Do whatever. It's great effects in the earth. Look at how these mass movements have affected the earth. The 5G, the coronavirus. Look at the mass movements of the past. Affecting the earth. Noah, mass movement. Protesting the way the earth was treated. What do you mean the way the earth was treated? Have you read Genesis, the 4th chapter? It said the seed of Cain came here, and they began to take all the copper and take all the silver out of the earth. They dug holes and left it all there and began to destroy the earth. The earth was their body, and here come people in great protest and died by the millions until finally a scientist showed up on the scene named Noah. Oh no, he was a herder, Brother Parnell. He herded sheep. I don't read that. Somebody said to me one time, said, don't you know, I was given the story of Noah. And it was a young group of people in the corporation. They said, Mr. Parnell, we just want to say something. That couldn't have happened. I said, what do you mean it couldn't have happened? The Bible says it happened. They said, you can't take all those animals, 7 of every kind, and clean and unclean, and 2 male and female, and put them all in that little dimensions of that ark. They ain't going to go in there. We know that Bible is not true because it just won't fit. And I was standing there and I was looking at all those people, 300 or 400 of them, smiles on their face like, we got you now. And I said, you know what, you're right. I've always kind of wondered how it happened. Noah was a scientist, and he took the DNA of everything on the earth, he encapsulated that, and he put it on the Noah's Ark, and Noah's Ark was a huge blood bank that moved across the earth, and that scientist took all that blood bank out, and him and his boys began to put all this DNA back together and brought all these animals and grew them in incubation and brought them back to the earth, grew all the botany life, grew everything, and here come the earth right back again because of such a great scientist that moved across all of that destruction with a blood bank called the Ark. And they all just sat back like, oops, he might be right. When you get out of your box, move into your imagination, Uranus, move into all the help we're getting, become a part of it. Become a part of it, Libra. Gemini, communication, raise up. Begin to communicate this thing. Do what you need to do so we can move to the next house of the zodiac. What house is that, Brother Parnell? Capricorn, an earth sign. Taurus and Capricorn and Virgo begin to take over and establish all of this imagination and chaos into a moving government of love and peace in the earth. It's going to happen. And we're watching this. All of these movements, all of these things happening. Stop thinking you're alone. It's an easy thing to do. Moses did it. Back-talked the pillar of fire. I'm not the guy. I got an impediment speech. I got this problem. I'm not your man. Jesus did it. Went in the Garden of Eden and said, what are the Garden of Gethsemane? He said, I can't do this. There's got to be another way. Father, can you set something else up here?
Yeah.
Well, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You get to feeling alone. And then there has to be a mass movement into the earth, and here come the angels. And they ministered. That was you and me. Come right down there and ministered to Jesus and said, hey, we talked to you here a while back on Mount Transfiguration. We told you what was going to happen. We sent Moses and Elijah and told you, Jesus, pull your bootstraps up. It's going to get nasty from here on. So don't come here in the garden acting like you didn't know it, like it's going to be a horrible thing. This is what you came here for. And we ministered to him and put that determination in him, and he walked out of that garden and went through hell for 12 hours till he died on that cross. How'd he do it? Whole lot of help. Whole lot of angels. Mass movement into the earth. A mass movement that said crucify him. A mass movement that said love him. A mass movement that said, come on, Jesus. We're all in this together. Let's go. All of it moved into the earth to form what took place. We're looking at a mass movement happening today. A movement to take us where we're going. A movement that brings us into the earth. We're looking at a mass movement to do what? Level the playing field. That's what's happening. A mass movement to bring everything to not equality, but balance. To bring everything to balance. To bring everything to purpose for expansion and growth. We're balancing the universe. It's a great time.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're not doing it by ourselves. Anything that anybody else wants to say or
Changes our perspective on theophanies. You know, we understand that theophanies regenerate themselves to progress the evolution of the spirit, which is all of us together in a collective way.
Yes.
Certain. Think about when Jesus was here. You know how very few people knew he was here? But yet, all those theophanies were in the earth, in different areas, going through things to progress that message, to move it along. Whether it's a direct part of it or not. Everybody on this planet's a part of it.
That's right.
And have they been here before? Some have, some haven't. I would say it's a mixture of both. Some are new at this, some been through this 3 or 4 times, and they've come back and said, I got this. I know how to move into the earth and do what I need to do to draw attention to what needs to be drawn attention to so that we can change, so that we can progress, so that we can evolve for everyone.
That's right.
And that's changes your whole perspective on what theophanies are and what they do.
Mm-hmm. The 5G's Antichrist. Hear my words. The 5G is Christ.
Yep. Yep.
All of this famine across Africa, it's the devil, it's the Antichrist. No, Africa's raising up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, thousands of people a month are coming to hear these things from Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this famine and all this political chaos, it's Christ. Angels massing themselves into Africa, moving about to proliferate everything and bring the people of Africa up to a higher level of living. They've lived below their privileges.
Mm-hmm.
It's happening all around us. I could just keep going with it.
You know what caused us to live below our privileges? The concept of God and the devil.
That's right.
Out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you still have that concept of God out here somewhere and the devil over here, the devil's making you do this, and God's doing this, and you're not responsible for yourself or anything that you do, you'll never see this.
Right.
And you will struggle with this. In fact, you'll just walk away from it. If you still have God out here and a devil, bring it right here.
Yep.
Forget all of that. Put it inside yourself. You will be able to embrace this and see this in a short period of time.
You'll be a
Yes.
participant instead of a spectator.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of people that will walk away and they'll spend their entire life as a spectator watching
Yes.
what's going on. And other ones will say, you know what? No, I need to be a part of this somehow, some way.
Yeah.
And they become a participant.
And the spectators become a participant because they become the ones that die for it. They become the ones that get sick for it. They're angels just like everybody else.
Yeah.
They're fulfilling a purpose. We had a man here last night, 30 years old. He is a partner with my daughter, Jessica. And we were discussing all this, and it blew him away. It put him into a whole nother world. And he said, where are you getting this? What are you guys talking about? And he started asking questions, and before he left here, he was like, wow, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
This is great. I see this. This makes sense.
Yeah, it explains a lot. It explains a lot, yeah.
I need to know more.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, you know where we're at.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay. We love you. I hope this has been a blessing to you. If it's out there for you, maybe if you're, I've got a Taurus sitting right here. He's as earth as you can get.
Yeah.
Got a
That's true.
Capricorn on
Got
the
a
other
Capricorn on the other side.
Another time.
Yeah.
Got a Taurus sitting over there.
Yeah.
You know, don't tell me it's because of your sign that you don't know, because these three should never understand it. Now Lily maybe, because she's Aquarian.
I'm a Scorpio.
There you go. They might say, gee, this makes a little bit of sense, but these three guys will be saying, Don Parnell, that's enough. This ain't happening. So it's not your sign, it's not your age, it's not your, all those things. No. It's whether or not you're willing to open up and accept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, right there.
William Branham made a statement about those seals. He said, anybody can see this who wants to see it.
That's right.
I'm gonna tell you right now, anybody can see this
Yeah.
who wants to see it.
Yep.
And if you don't wanna see it, then you become one of those that die in another way
Yeah.
for these things. Love bless. Go ahead, Brother Allen.
There's a time, and the time is now, and it's right for me. It's right for me, and the time is now. There's a word, and the word is love, and it's right for me. It's right for me, and the word is love. There's a time, and the time is now, and it's right for me. It's right for me, and the time is now. There's a word, and the word is love, and it's right for me. It's right for me, and the word is love.
Amen. Yes. What a great time. What a great understanding. Imagine. Imagine there's nothing but sky above us. There's nothing but dirt below us. There's no heaven or hell. It's all conditional.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine these dimensions being together. The more you imagine it, the more it'll pull together and you'll begin to understand and see what's happening. With this understanding of the authority of Christ that we have, we are the anointing. We are the Christ. We're not looking for an anointing. We are the anointing in the earth. We are the Christ. With that understanding, we take all these economic things, these red dragons and everything about us and all this capitalism, we take it all under our control. We take it all under our control when it comes to healing, when it comes to what we need in our businesses, what we need in our lives, what we need spiritually. We take it all under our control in Christ. And I declare to every one of you, it's yours. Amen. Great to see you.
Great to be seen.
Good to see you, man. It's been a long time.
I know.
Been over a year.
Love the song.
I figured you would.
Yes, yes, I do.
Still trying to find a comfortable key, but
I appreciate you playing that. I love that song.
that's it.
All I could say when you started, I said, yes.